Thanks everybody for coming out here and saying hello. I've had the pleasure to be in Effingham County a lot, both as a candidate statewide office and I've been in here, I think, for your Lincoln Day dinners actually a number of times. But I wanted to be here today because it's getting down to the wire, as you men and women that are running on the ballot know that. And the entire world right now is watching what's going on here in America. I mean, everyone is watching this presidential race, because it's going to have a dramatic impact upon the globe and the economy, and America's economy reflects what's going to be a part of the global economy as well. I want to, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I had the good fortune to, a friend of mine called me, Denny Hasser, you know the speaker. All right, the speaker called me and said, Dan, do you know Mitt Romney very well? And I said, well, actually, Mr. Speaker, I know him, but I don't know him really that well. Well, the speaker got to know him because of the efforts with the Olympics. And he said, I really think you ought to get to know this guy. And the two of you click. So I flew to Boston, and I sat down in Mitt's office for about an hour and a half, just visiting. And you know, when you get into the drill down issues, where do you stand on Hezbollah and Hamas, and you know, it wasn't that heavy of a conversation, but it was very direct conversation. And one of the things that Steve had mentioned is that myself, I had recently retired 25 years in the private sector. I was vice president of a company called Service Master Corporation, and we acquired companies like Terminex Pest Control and True Green Lawn Care and Mary Maid. So I was a private sector business guy when I sat down with Governor Romney, who I had also been elected to an office. So I really enjoyed the fact of being able to talk to a man who's been in business, been dramatically successful, and served in government. Now, all right, just between us, he made a lot more money in the private sector, and I'm okay with that. That's what America's about. Make all the money you possibly can. Do it illegally. Make all the money you possibly can. And success should be accoladed. But he made a lot more money than I did, and that's okay. We finished up that conversation, and he said, Dan, would you chair my campaign in Illinois? I said, Governor, I'd be honored to. So I chaired his campaign in 2008. Came down to the fact that Senator McCain became our standard bearer. Governor Romney and I talked, and he said that I want you, let's all get behind Senator McCain. And we all got behind Senator McCain. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. About 2 months later, 3 months later, I was with Mitt and Romney, and I had a conversation with him. I said, Governor, I think it's probably a good thing you didn't get that nomination. In 2008, I don't know that anyone could have beat Barack Obama. There was such a, there was such a movement, there was such a hope and change, there was so much, backsplash from previous administration. It was just going to be really tough. 4 years later, dramatically different. Governor Romney called me up. He said, Dan, would you chair my campaign? I said, Governor, I'd be honored to. Now, for all of us men and women that have our names on the ballot, we know how hard it is to run for office. But can you envision what it must be like to be a candidate for the presidency of the United States? I mean, how those hot searing spotlights, everything you do, you scratch your nose and it's on YouTube. We had a lot of talents running for the nomination. Rick Santorum, fantastic candidate. Great, great, great candidate. Rick Perry, Ron Paul, Herman Cain, Newt Gingrich, Michelle Bachmann. I mean, we were blessed as a party to have a good talent base. All said and done, we went through the process, and Illinois delivered big for Governor Romney, and we went to Tampa, and he is our nominee. And Senator Santorum was campaigning for him. We're all teammates. The night of the primary, we were back in the holding room, and we're getting ready to go out for me to introduce him for the national television to accept the win in Illinois, which was right at the point then of, it was fait accompli. He was, we needed Illinois, and then he was going to be the nominee. In that room, we talked about the role of Illinois. This is the incumbent president's home state. After we go through the primary, what's the role of Illinois? And I said, Governor, I get it. You need to be elsewhere, because we need 270, right? 270 electoral votes. That's what we're after. So you need to be someplace else. And we really had a very direct conversation. I was very pleased at his response. He said, no, we want to help. We want to do things. We want to play. And we're not getting television ads in Illinois. You all know that. In fact, I'm not asking for them. I want that money for television ads to go to Florida, Ohio, Iowa, you know, the places we need for the 270. Come on in here. Come on in. Come on. To play for the 270. But we're playing the ground game. We're playing a very hard ground game here because, and how many of you were at the state convention? Some of you were at the Illinois State Convention, Republican Party convention. In my I closed out the convention. I was a closer speech, and in that convention speech, if you will recall, I said the priority has to be the President of the United States, because we all get invigorated, everybody's interested, they all know what's going on with that, they all get invigorated. And the second is our county board. And I know some people looked at me like, what are you talking about, including my political staff. And I said, no, this is the strategy, what we're going to play in Illinois. It is to help elect Republican county board members and help elect the President of the United States. Because when we do that, that helps the state's attorney, that helps the coroner, it helps the Congress, it helps the State House. So our whole effort on the ground has been for county boards, county officers, and the President of the United States. There are 15 victory centers in Illinois. These are call centers set up in cooperation with the Republican National Committee, Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, State Party, Romney Campaign, House and Senate campaigns. We just reached over 4 million voter contact calls. All right, now, think about what I'm telling you here. This is Illinois, right? Barack Obama's the incumbent president. This is his state, right? Sidebar. Before 2010 election, every single constitutional officer in the state of Illinois was a Democrat from the city of Chicago. Okay? This is a pretty blue state. Did you notice how I said was? In 2010, we were able, in great part through the effort and assistance of Effingham County and Champaign County and Saline County and Coles County and Friends, Livingston County and others, we elected a few Republicans in this state, and myself being one of those. So Illinois, you know what? Illinois is no longer a blue state. It's a purple state. All right? Now, what our goal to do in 2012 is to make it a light purple state. Okay? Because soon after light purple comes red.
There we go.
So as we're working this through, these call centers have been dramatically successful. I will tell you, elections have consequences. And this young, how old did you say you were? 14? 14. I used to be 14 too. Elections have consequences. And what we do in this presidential race will have an effect on this 14-year-old young man. And I will tell you, and the reason I want to be here in Effingham County is to let you know, and I've been to every corner, every inch of this state. In fact, before I leave on this 3-day road trip, I will have actually gone back to Metropolis, if you know where Metropolis is, okay? Yes. So I've been, when I get there, I will have also been all the way to the Wisconsin border. So I've been to every inch of this state. There is a rustling under the leaves here in Illinois. There is a rustling under the leaves. I will give you 2 stories to tell you testimony of what I'm talking about. First is in the city of Chicago. Barack Obama's city, right? Democrat control. We opened a victory center in downtown Chicago. And I was there for the grand opening, being the chair of the Romney campaign. Victory centers are call centers, like I said, on behalf of who's your presidential preference, then on your congressional and so forth, to help congressional and state house races. When I got there was people standing outside. There was a line to get inside the city of Chicago call center for Republicans. There was not a single phone on, we had more people than we had phones. We had to ask people, could you come back in an hour when Betty had to leave and you take over that phone, but in the meantime, could you go out and hand out literature? City of Chicago, call center, more people than we could ever have had capacity. And right now, they're off the charts. They have got so many people coming in to help make phone calls on behalf of Republicans in the city of Chicago. Now, love Effingham and this county, but if we don't do well in the city of Chicago, there's more Republican votes, Republican votes in the city of Chicago than the other city in the state. So if we don't do well there, we don't do well overall. So that, my friends, is testimony. In my opinion, there's a rustling under the leaves. The second example I will give you is I was planning to be home on a Saturday. I'd been on the road for easily 10 to 12 days. This was a Saturday. I was going to be home. I was going to do laundry, pay bills, have dinner with the family, and do a cookout. Okay, the stuff that you normally do on a Saturday, I finally had one to do it. And I got a phone call from one of your county chairman friends in deep southern Illinois that said, Dan, is there any possibility you could come down here to speak at this rally on a Saturday? I was like, man, I need a good night's sleep, but what is it? And they told me. It was a rally in a county, very, very dark blue Democrat county. It was a rally for coal. It was a coal rally. They didn't have a Republican down there to speak, so I went to this southern Illinois county. When I got there, this was a county, by the way, that I think they'd heard of a Republican. They hadn't seen one. Okay? So when I got there, I kind of felt like a white deer in the forest or something. Okay. I come in peace, you know, I'm friendly, I'm a nice guy. And who were here, I get this, 3,000 people. Wow. This rally, there were 3,000 people at a rally for coal. And every one of them was a United Mine Worker, a retired United Mine Worker, a family of a United Mine Worker. Every one of them were coal miners. And as the first speaker got up and was speaking about stuff, between me and that camera, two guys were ready to have a fist fight. And I'm sitting on the stage looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, where's the back door? The police had to come and say, gentlemen, please, let's not fight. They had to separate them and took them apart. So while the police are escorting these two people off to the side, the moderator gets up and says, and now we'd like to introduce you to the Illinois State Treasurer. I think to myself, thanks a lot, buddy. I get up there, and I could see that this was not going to be a speech, because there's no way you're going to win a speech. And in this conversation I talked about what I told you at the beginning is, elections have consequences. And what you do this coming election, and I pointed to a little girl, she was younger than 14, pointed to a little girl in front, I said, this election for the presidency of the United States will have a consequence on this little girl's future husband. It already has an effect on her father and an effect on her sister. And where we go with regards to the election of the presidency will have an effect in regards to the coal industry and will have a dramatic effect on southern Illinois. 3,000 people started to get quiet now. And they started to listen to a conversation. And I, talked about a few things, and then, all right, and then I told a white lie. I then said, okay, my assumption is that most of you are here are Democrats. Well, my white lie was I knew every single one of them. and then that's what I said, and I respect that you're going to probably want to vote for, and I referred to one of the Democrat elected officials on the stage with me because you went to high school with me. I mean, I understand that. And there's other reasons and relationships, but when you go in there and you close that curtain, you can actually vote for Mitt Romney for President of the United States, and you won't melt. And they kind of got a little chuckle out of it. And then here's the sentence that caused me to one more time believe there's a rustling under the leaves. I then said, I want to, just out of full disclosure, I'm down here, and I am the chairman of the state of Illinois for Governor Mitt Romney for president. 3,000 United Mine Worker coal miners, families and retirees, when I finished that sentence, gave that sentence a cheering ovation. I was stunned. I was not expecting that response at all. So if we are having this response from the urban city of Chicago and the small rural coal mine area of southern Illinois, that there's an energy for the Republican candidate for president, I'm telling you right now, there's something rustling under the leaves. Our challenge and our game is the 270 Electoral College. It will be difficult to win Illinois over a current incumbent state. I understand that, but we're not giving up an inch. We are not giving up an inch in the state of Illinois for our candidates for President of the United States and for County Board. Keep the spirit up, keep the faith, because there is something going on out there that I don't think that the public and pundits and pollsters and talking heads and bloggers and super PACs and everything else has really picked up.